When we talk about artificial intelligence, we usually picture clean neural network architectures and pure mathematical equations. The reality of creating these models is bound by physical space and harsh electrical constraints. Training a large language model requires warehouse-scale physical infrastructure. You are managing thousands of physical components, orchestrating the flow of electricity, heat, and data across massive server racks. Within those racks, engineers face a severe bottleneck. Look closely at the spec sheet for a modern H100 GPU. It promises nearly 1,000 teraflops of raw computing power. Yet, even when top laboratories actually train models on this hardware, they rarely achieve more than a 50% utilization rate. Half the hardware's capability sits idle. Training a large language model is a deterministic systems engineering problem, dictated by strict physical limits. To understand those limits, we have to start at the absolute bottom. Every parameter, gradient, and activation in a network is stored in memory as a tensor. Traditionally, the standard format for these numbers was float32. This format provides high resolution, but it demands 4 bytes of memory for every single parameter. For models with billions of parameters, that footprint immediately exceeds available memory capacity. Cutting the bits in half to float16 shrinks the exponent bits so much that the format loses its dynamic range. If you try training a deep network with it, numbers that get too small turn into zeros, and numbers that get too large cause overflow errors, crashing the training run. This diagram shows how the industry solved the problem with a format called bfloat16. Instead of equally shrinking the number, it sacrifices the mantissa, the fraction part responsible for high resolution. It shifts those bits over to maintain the exact same exponent size as float32. You lose decimal precision, but you maintain the necessary dynamic range to prevent the model from overflowing. Hardware engineers are currently pushing even further into 8-bit and 4-bit precision. Because 4 bits cannot cover the necessary dynamic range natively, they work around the physical limits by grouping values into blocks and applying a shared scaling factor to the entire block. Selecting this bit-level precision establishes the absolute physical floor of the entire model's memory footprint, long before a single computation is executed. Once the precision is set, those tensors must be moved and manipulated. In standard frameworks like PyTorch, developers manipulate matrices using arbitrary index-based transposes, requiring them to guess whether dimension -1 or -2 is the correct one to swap. Systems engineers avoid this ambiguity by relying on a library called INOPS as a structural solution for managing complex tensor operations. INOPS requires you to use named dimensions. You declare exactly what you are doing, mapping a sequence and a hidden dimension directly to a designated output matrix. Any dimension not explicitly mentioned gets summed out automatically. This naming convention forces the developer's intent to perfectly map to the hardware's physical memory layout. Clean, unambiguous operational syntax allows us to calculate the deterministic cost of our compute. We measure this cost in flops. A flop with a lowercase s is a single floating point operation, a measure of the total math required. Flops with an uppercase s denotes floating point operations per second, measuring hardware speed. This animation shows the arithmetic cost of a forward pass through a basic linear layer. We take our input data points, dimension n, and we multiply them by our parameter matrix, dimension d. Because each coordinate intersection requires one multiplication and one addition, the cost of this forward pass is 2 times the number of tokens, n, times the number of parameters, d. The backward pass requires twice as much work. The chain rule demands 2 distinct sets of gradients, one gradient with respect to the parameters and another gradient with respect to the inputs. That makes the backward pass cost 4 ND. 2 ND forward plus 4 ND backward yields the baseline calculation for language model training compute, 6 ND. Every single token passing through a parameter exacts a non-negotiable computational toll on the system. The chips have high bandwidth memory, where the tensors are stored, and specialized cores where the math actually happens. To compute anything, a massive stream of digital data must physically travel from memory across a narrow pathway into the accelerator. This introduces arithmetic intensity, the ratio of flops executed per byte of data transferred across that memory bottleneck. Consider an element-wise operation, like a ReLU activation. The system pulls a massive vector into the core, performs a single comparison to 0 on each number, and sends it right back. The ratio of actual math to data movement is incredibly poor. Contrast that with a large matrix multiplication. You send an n-squared amount of data across the wire, but you compute an n-cubed number of operations once they arrive. The arithmetic intensity scales positively as the matrix grows. This graph shows the hardware's physical limits, known as a roofline plot. The y-axis tracks achieved performance, and the x-axis tracks arithmetic intensity. The sloped line is the memory bandwidth ceiling, and the flat line at the top is the peak compute ceiling. Operations like a ReLU activation are trapped here on the sloped line. They are strictly memory-bound. The accelerator sits idle, waiting for data to arrive. A massive matrix multiplication pushes past the inflection point and hits the flat ceiling. It saturates the hardware and becomes compute-bound. Model flops utilization hovers at 50% because the hardware is constantly starved for data transfer, not compute capabilities. Let's open the ledger and calculate the true memory cost of a single parameter during training. Using bfloat16, the baseline weight takes 2 bytes. The resulting gradient requires another 2 bytes. To navigate the loss landscape effectively, the Atom optimizer must constantly track the first and second moments of the gradients for every single weight. Accumulating these running averages in low precision causes severe mathematical instability. Atom requires standard float 32, instantly adding a massive 8-byte footprint per parameter. The model weights are a fraction of the total cost. The optimizer states are what actually drown the GPU's memory. To stay compute-bound and maintain high arithmetic intensity, we need massive matrices and large batch sizes. But processing those large batches blows up the high-bandwidth memory with massive activations and optimizer states. To prevent the system from crashing, engineers implement 2 critical pressure valves. The first is gradient accumulation. Instead of processing a massive batch at once, the system slices data into micro-batches. It runs forward and backward passes on these smaller chunks to save memory, adds the results into a holding pool, and only steps the optimizer once the full batch accumulates. The second pressure valve is activation checkpointing. Normally, the forward pass saves every layer's activation for calculating gradients. Checkpointing intentionally drops most intermediate activations, flushing them to keep memory empty. During the backward pass, the system simply recomputes missing activations from the nearest saved checkpoint. Training a large language model at scale requires engineers to juggle bytes, cheating physical memory walls while fighting to keep arithmetic intensity high. If you want to take these theoretical frameworks and apply them practically, I highly invite you to check out the Learn by Doing with Steven YouTube channel and other platforms. And for deeper discussions on the data engineering that fuels all this, tune in to the Steven Data Talk podcast, available on YouTube Music, Spotify, and various other platforms. Links are in the description.